I want you to picture something. You're on the bridge of an enormous container ship. I mean, 4 football fields long. It's 3 a.m., it's pitch black, and rain is just lashing against the
And you're
windows.
not in the open ocean. You're somewhere tight.
Exactly. You're trying to navigate the Singapore Strait, which is basically a highway for supertankers. The only thing telling you where the safe water is the glow from the screens in front of you, your ECDI.
The electronic chart display and information system. It's the digital brain of the whole operation.
Right. And we all sort of assume that brain is objective, that it's just showing us the world as it is.
But it's not. Not really.
And that's what we're digging into today. There's a digital battle happening on those screens, a whole philosophical war about safety and clutter, and it all comes down to this one single boring-looking toggle switch hidden in a menu. It's called SCAMIN.
SCAMIN. It almost sounds like a scam, doesn't it?
It really does. But this is a feature that's genuinely dividing the entire navigation community. We're going to be breaking down a great article from the Deep Draft by Captain Raghu Sharma. It's called SCAMIN in ECDIS: Why Always Off versus Phase-Based Still Divides Navigators.
And we're not just looking at the article. We're digging into the comments, the manuals, this whole messy reality of what happens when software tries to, well, curate the world for us.
Because the mission of this deep dive is to get at a really core question. In a world of information overload, does seeing everything actually make you safer?
Or does it just blind you to what really matters?
That's the tension. So let's get the technical stuff out of the way first so we can get to the drama. What exactly is SCAMIN?
Okay, so it stands for scale minimum. It's an attribute that's coded right into the electronic chart data for certain objects.
An attribute.
Yeah, and in simple terms, it's a rule. It tells the computer, hey, if the user zooms out past this specific scale, hide this object.
So it's like an invisibility cloak.
Functionally, yeah. It's an automated declutter button. Think about, an old paper map of the entire United States. You wouldn't draw every single side street in Des Moines on it. It would just be a black smudge.
It wouldn't be a map anymore.
Exactly. SCAMIN is just the digital version of that same logic.
Can you give us a specific example from a ship's point of view? What sort of thing vanishes?
The classic one is soundings, the little numbers that tell you the water depth. A particular depth, let's say 22 meters, might have a SCAMIN value of 1 to 120,000. So if you're looking at the chart at a scale of 1 to 90,000, you see it. It's there.
You're zoomed in, so you see the detail.
Right. But the second you zoom out to, say, 1 to 125,000 to get a bigger picture, poof, it's gone.
It's not just grayed out or faded, it's just gone.
Completely gone. And this isn't some bug, it's mandated. The ISO Presentation Library 4.0, which is sort of the rule book for these charts, it says every single ECDIS must have a toggle to turn SCAMIN on or off.
And that toggle, that's where the fight starts.
That's the heart of the whole debate.
Okay, because on one side, you have what the article calls the always-off camp. And I have to admit, when I first started reading, I was on their side. It just seemed to make sense.
Why do you think that is?
Well, just think about the stakes, right?
Yeah.
I'm in charge of this $500 asset with lives on board. The last thing I want is the computer deciding what I don't need to see.
The peace of mind argument.
Exactly. The logic is, what if I accidentally zoom out too far? If SCAMIN is on, some critical wreck or a shallow spot could just vanish because I scrolled my mouse wheel one click too many. If I keep it off nothing is ever hidden. I see everything, all the time. I mean, that just sounds safer, doesn't it?
It absolutely sounds safer in a courtroom or in a boardroom when you're writing a company's safety policy. We told the captain to view all the data.
Right.
But Captain Sharma's whole point is that on the actual bridge at 3 in the morning, that safety net is actually a trap.
How can seeing more data be a trap?
Because of what the Force calls the haze of symbols. Go back to that 3 a.m. scenario. You're tired, you're stressed, and you zoom out a bit to check the traffic pattern. With SCAMIN off, your screen doesn't just show you the important stuff, it shows you everything.
Every single depth number, every underwater cable warning, every tiny text label all at once.
All of it, piled on top of each other, a total mess. The article quotes the Admiralty Guide itself, which says, and this is a direct quote, "Excessive detail does not improve safety. It undermines it."
Undermines it. Wow, that's a really strong phrase.
It is, but I think it's accurate. Because now the human, the tired, stressed human, has to do all the filtering. You have to squint at this digital blizzard and figure out, is that a dangerous obstruction or just a contour line I don't care about right now?
And that little moment of thinking takes time.
It takes cognitive load.
Yeah.
And you do that 100 times an hour, and you get what's called change blindness. You might actually miss the one new critical symbol because it's buried in a mountain of noise.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's like looking for one specific car in a 1,000-car parking lot. But here's the counter argument I kept thinking of, the one the always off crowd uses. Well, just don't zoom out. Navigate at the correct scale for the chart, and then there's no clutter.
Ah, yes, the fallacy of the right scale.
The fallacy.
It's a wonderful theory that works perfectly in a classroom. But at sea, it's just not realistic. Captain Sharma really tears this idea apart.
Yeah.
He points out that modern navigation is incredibly dynamic. You're constantly zooming in, zooming out.
You zoom in to check a buoy's light, then you zoom right back out to check on that other ship.
You're never static, so you can't just set the zoom to 1 to 50,000 and leave it there for your whole watch. And what's more, the ship is moving across different charts. You go from a coastal chart to a harbor approach chart, and the correct scale changes automatically.
And if you have SCAMIN off when that happens?
Your screen can just instantly explode with detail. To expect a navigator to manually manage all that visual noise while also, steering the ship, you're setting them up to fail.
Okay, so always off is basically data vomit. It covers the company legally, but it blinds the actual user. But I'm still stuck on the fear. If I turn SCAMIN on, things disappear. That's a fact. How do you solve for that?
This is where the article proposes something much more nuanced. It's called the phase-based approach. And it stops treating navigation as just one single task.
It breaks it down.
It breaks it down into two very distinct modes: planning and execution.
Okay, let's walk through it. Phase 1, planning. I'm in the chart room. The ship is tied up.
Right. And in this phase, you turn SCAMIN off.
Oh, okay. So we do use the always off mode just here.
Exactly. But the context is crucial. You're not driving. You're at a desk. You have time. You're doing a forensic analysis of your route. You want to see every single wreck, every pipeline. You need total data completeness to make sure the course you're plotting is actually safe.
The clutter is fine here because my job is to sift through the clutter.
Precisely. You verify the route against the raw, unfiltered data. And then you move to phase 2, execution. Now you're underway. The engines are on. You're on the bridge.
And this is when you flip the switch.
You turn SCAMIN on.
You drive with the filter active.
Yes, because your job has changed. Your priority isn't analysis anymore. It's situational awareness. You need clarity. You need to see the shape of the channel, the other ships, the main buoys. You can't have the screen clogged with info you already checked and verified days ago.
Okay, but I'm going to be the nervous one again. Let's say I did my planning. I had SCAMIN off. I checked everything. Now I'm sailing with it on it. What if I missed something? What if there's a wreck the computer decides to hide just as I zoom out? I'm putting a lot of faith in my past self.
And that's the human anxiety, right? That's the core fear. But the article points out a really critical technical safeguard: the automatic route check.
And how does that work?
Well, every ECDIS has this function. It automatically scans your entire planned route against the whole chart database, looking for dangers based on your ship's specific settings, like its draft. And this scan happens behind the scenes, whether SCAMIN is visually on or off.
So the computer has already seen the danger for you, even if it's hiding it from your screen at that moment.
Exactly. The system would have already thrown an alarm back in the planning stage if your route was unsafe. So when you're sailing with SCAMIN on, you're not flying blind. You're sailing on a pre-verified path. You're just removing the visual noise because you've already confirmed the safety of the water.
It's about being intentional. I think that's the word. The always off F philosophy is a blunt instrument. Just show me everything. But the phase-based approach forces the navigator to think about what they're doing. Now I'm planning, I need detail. Now I'm driving, I need clarity.
And that's why it's hard. It requires more training, more engagement. It's just easier for a company to write a rule that says always leave it off than to train officers to be active managers of their own data.
And speaking of things that are hard to manage, the hardware itself, there's a part of this that honestly it kind of freaked me out. The manufacturer problem.
Oh, this is a massive issue. We all think of an ECDIS as being a standard, right? Like a PDF is a PDF. Open on any computer, it looks the same.
But electronic charts don't work that way.
No. The source points to a warning in the Admiralty Guide that different manufacturers apply their own extra filtering logic on top of the standard SCAMIN rules.
Extra filtering logic? That sounds vague and scary.
It is. It means Company A's software might decide to hide a text label to improve readability, even if the base chart data says to show it. Company B might make a completely different choice.
So let's play that out. Two identical ships side by side. Ship A has a Furuno ECDIS. Ship B has a Transis. Both captains have SCAMIN on, both are zoomed to the same level.
It is entirely possible that Ship A sees a submerged obstruction symbol on their screen, and Ship B sees nothing but clear water.
That is genuinely terrifying.
Because Ship B's software decided that symbol was clutter at that zoom level,
Okay.
and Ship A's decided it was critical.
That just breaks the whole idea of standardized navigation. If the map itself changes depending on who wrote the code for the display, how can you trust it?
You can't, not 100%, and that's the brutal truth. And it explains why the always-off crowd is so paranoid. They think by forcing everything onto the screen, they can bypass these secret manufacturer filters.
But they just trade one risk for another, the hidden data versus the blinding clutter.
It really hammers home that these screens aren't just windows onto the world. They're interpretations. They're opinionated software renderings of reality.
And sometimes those interpretations are just flat out confused, which brings us to the twist in the story.
Yes, the SCAMAX controversy.
I love this part. Me too, because it just shows how messy this all is. So in the article, Captain Sharma talks about SCAMIN's opposite number, SCAMAX, scale maximum.
And the theory makes sense. It's supposed to hide things when you zoom in too far. So if you're looking at data from a 1950s survey, it shouldn't let you zoom in to a 1-meter resolution and get this false sense of precision.
Right, don't navigate a supertanker with a map meant for a rowboat. The article presents it as a real working feature, but then you get to the comments section.
And a reader, Peter Schwartzberg, drops a bombshell. He points out that according to the S57 product specifications, the absolute Bible for this stuff, SCAMAX, is actually a prohibited attribute.
Prohibited, as in you're not allowed to use it.
Correct. The official rules forbid chart makers from ever encoding it. So this feature that's being debated, it shouldn't even exist in the official charts ships use today.
So you have an expert navigator writing an article assuming a feature exists, and a reader pointing out that the underlying code actually forbids it. What does that tell you about this technology?
It tells me it's opaque, it's confusing. If the experts themselves are arguing over whether a core feature is even legal or real, how is a 24-year-old officer on the night watch supposed to have total command of their tools?
It's that idea again. The map isn't the territory. The map is a database. And it's a messy database with weird rules and secret filters.
It's a perfect example of what they call automation bias. We're just programmed to trust the screen. If the screen looks clean, we assume the water is clean. But this whole SCAMIN debate proves that a clean screen is a choice. It's a constructed reality.
So if we bring this all together, what's the takeaway for you, for the listener? Most of us aren't driving ships.
The takeaway for me is about being an active user of information, not a passive one. The always-off approach, just letting all the data flood in, is passive. You're just hoping you can sort through the fire hose.
You're a victim of the data.
Exactly. But the phase-based approach, it forces you to be an editor. You have to consciously say, okay, for this task planning, I need the raw feed, I need the mess. And then now for this task execution, I need to apply a filter so I can actually think clearly.
It's about taking control of your own filter.
Yes. Because if you don't control the filter controls you. And that's true whether it's SCAMIN on a ship's bridge or, the algorithm on your newsfeed. If you don't understand why something is being shown to you or why something else is being hidden, you're not really in charge.
I love that. If you don't control the filter controls you. That's going to stick with me.
It really is the key to navigating the modern world.
So, a final thought for you to chew on. We've spent this whole time talking about how these tools are designed to make reality usable by, hiding some of it.
By decluttering it.
Right. But if our digital tools are constantly filtering the world to keep us from getting overwhelmed, at what point does that filter become the only reality we see? When we start to rely on the software to declutter everything, to hide the unimportant depth soundings or the irrelevant news stories, are we still seeing the dangers? Or are we just navigating inside a very comfortable, very clean simulation of them?
That's the question, isn't it? If the hazard is filtered out of your view, does it even exist?
Until you hit it. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.